Hello malt mates, Ralphie in the bothy, the whisky bothy, so not any old bothy, and I've just completed, as part of the beginning of our short summer season, of rum reviews, a rum review about an Australian single blended rum from Beanley Distillery from an independent bottler, bottled for a major British online retailer. And it's frankly as good as you get it. And it's, what do I mean by good? I mean it's rich, substantial, and it's got that complexity which, once the whisky enthusiasts gets that, oh, excuse me, incoming. Once the whisky enthusiast gets their palate round the different flavours and style of presentation that is rum, they're really going to enjoy it. Are you coming up, little sausage? Are you? There's a cat in the building. Cat in the bothy. But he's feeling the heat because he can't take his fur coat off. So he's getting a little bit lethargic. Aren't you, sweetie? Oh, he's away now. Right. I gave this rum a good review. 80 out of 100. Huh? Quite generous. I want to explain it a little bit. One of the problems that the whisky fan faces is the inherent prejudice of smell and taste. We spend a lot of time and invest a lot of money in whisky, and we get used to the peatiness, the sherry bombs, the grain-led experiences, the complex variety, not just of flavours that you find in Scotch whisky, but of the characters and signatures, the lighter styles, the more savoury styles, the more complex, the more simple. So you've got Glenmorangie, it's a simple malt. You've got Auchentoshan, which is a light style of Scotch whisky. You've got the savoury whiskies like Ardmore and Edredour. You've got the sherry bombs like Glenfarclas, for example, and you've got the peat monsters like Laphroaig. So we need time, in fact, and quite a few years to navigate our way around the Scotch whisky scene. But then we get used to it, and then we face a problem. The problem is that we're not getting bored of whisky, but we're getting overly familiar with it. And we need to give our palate a break from the habit. And this usually happens when we pour a glass of whisky one evening, out the blue, nothing particularly outstanding or extraordinary is happening, and we go to smell it and taste it and nothing's there. The brain simply doesn't respond. And this is what's called palate fatigue. And one of the great ways to address palate fatigue is to actually freshen things up by trying another spirit. Now, you could try cognac, but it is usually bottled at 40%. It is usually grossly overpriced in preposterous flasks and is full of snobbery and conceit. So that drives us away from it. Another style of French spirit is Armagnac, but too little of it is actually bottled single cask strength for the whisky drinker. We're relying on independent bottlers providing the best that Armagnac can deliver, because they're very tied up in their traditional way of presenting their spirit, which is usually in batches, and it's usually in vintage statements, and usually the strength is reduced to help keep the price down, because they believe that people won't pay the premium for better quality Armagnac, and this frankly is simply not true. Why? Because global attitudes are shifting and changing even as I narrate this video to you. We are in rapidly changing times. We could, by the way, suggest that you look at bourbon, But there's something very important you need to know about bourbon, and that is the really good quality bourbon doesn't leave the United States. There are a few exceptions, but they are few and far between. And when better quality bourbon comes into Europe, it's at far too high a price. It's at an absurd, stupid price, so we're just not going to buy it. End of. So this brings us to the best natural alternative companion for Scotch whisky, Irish whisky, any whisky from around the world, and that is rum. The important thing about rum is to help understand the flavour, and quality of rum, by the way, is a relatively modern phenomenon for the simple reason that you will notice that the historical narrative about rum is that it's to be mixed in cocktails, with fruit juice in the form of punches, and also with Coca-Cola. Right. There's a simple reason for that. Up until recently, the majority, and it's still the case, the majority of rum is made cheap and fast and bottled young because it's a mixing spirit and people are not too bothered about the flavour, so long as it's rum-like. That's the fact of it. But we now have a new situation developing in the global rum market, and that is more appreciation by a small but growing minority of aficionados who are either pure rum aficionados who enjoy the sipping rums along with their cocktail, or alternatively you have the whisky fans who are looking for an optional alternative to help rest their palate, make a change for the palate, and basically spice up the experience. Rum is perfect for that. Within the rum scene, there is so much variety of flavour, but you don't really notice it, and you won't find out until you go to a rum festival. I'll be talking about a rum festival in a forthcoming rum review extras coming up shortly, so I'll keep my powder dry on that one at the moment. But it's when we go to a rum festival, particularly when we know whisky festivals. And this is important. It is such a refreshing change to go from the specific whisky scene of whisky festivals, which have an awful lot of positivities going for them. But when we go to the rum, we will find that it's actually just that little bit different, but enough of a difference to make a tangible difference that it is really quite a refreshing difference when we compare a rum festival to a whisky festival. Particularly at the moment, you're seeing regional rum festivals pop up, and I recommend you get a ticket if you're a whisky fan. I was at a major British-based rum festival recently, and I'll talk more about that soon. But what I discovered there was an understanding within the rum industry now. The rum industry really knows that whisky drinkers are opening up their field of vision to rums and are taking an interest in rums thanks primarily to the Scottish independent whisky bottlers like Cadenheads, like Killdevil, like Dramore, like North Star, like the Thompson Brothers. These are just perfect illustrative examples of the whisky producers, the whisky developers, who are going to the warehouse and being told, by the way, we've got a few barrels of rum, are you interested? Now, a few years ago, they weren't particularly interested, except for Cadenheads, but all that's changing now, because the first people to be aware of the changes in the whisky industry, it's not the official distillers. It's the independent bottlers, because they're bottling in a far smaller scale with a much more rapid turnover, giving them much more rapid feedback on what is selling, how fast it's selling, and who it's selling to, because they're selling primarily not through Amazon, not through the supermarkets, but through the independent high street based retailers, which is the litmus as to which way the wind's blowing in the alcohol industry. Where is the trend developing? And that's exactly where it's happening. It's very exciting times. So if you're a rum fan and you've just tripped over my whiskey channel, you're very welcome. It's lovely to see you, because it's interesting to see how rum enthusiasts are now exploring some of the single malt whiskies, because rum enthusiasts immersed in the rum scene need rum alternatives. So the whiskey drinkers are looking for malt alternatives. The rum drinkers are looking for rum alternatives. And I think, by the way, in fact, I'm going to claim that phrase as the one that I invented here in the Bothy to explain the in the rum scene as options to rum are explored, primarily whiskey because of its availability. And I find it fascinating. A recent conversation I was having with someone in the rum industry who's actually gone to their first whiskey show. And what they're discussing about, and it's the hot topic, is what can a freshly emptied whiskey cask do for our rum? Should we finish our rum by exporting it to England to finish its maturation with wet ex-whiskey casks come straight down from Scotland to give us a drier style of rum? Hey, this is where you hear it first. Cheers. I'm going to conclude now with a recommendation. By the way, this is delicious. Beautifully, almost caramel cream toffee. When you start in rum, don't go in the deep end. Start with something like this. Durley's XO. Barbados, pot still, family-owned distillery. It's available, it's reasonably priced, and it's giving you a damn good experience. Importantly, it's bottled above 40%. This is at 43%. So for the money, you're getting a good value, accessible bottle. And if you're a rum fan, you'll love it. It's recommended by the rum fans. But if you're a whiskey fan, you'll relate to it. That's the important thing. Also, the history of whiskey, history of rum, and the history of whiskey overlap considerably. Rebellions, revolts, breakdown in law and order, smuggling, criminal shenanigans, bribery, corruption. Both rum and whiskey share these common heritage. What I recommend, if you're in Britain, look out for a decent book on historical smuggling in the British Isles, primarily down on the south coast, the southeast coast of England, where a lot was shipped through Holland. And it wasn't just goods that were shipped through Holland, it was more besides, but that's for another video. If you're a whiskey fan wanting to understand rum better, get a book on rum, on the history of rum. I'm not going to recommend a specific book because there's a number of really good books out there. I recommend you just open a search page and do a deep dive. You'll soon come up with a very affordable, inexpensively priced recommendation. Get the book and read the book while you're sipping the rum, because it starts to put the flavour into context. That's really all I have to say. I'm Ralphie in the Bothy, having a bit of a rum moment, because it's the height of summer, and unlike the old days, which weren't that long ago, more people are more interested, which is why I'm talking about it. See you soon.